Welcome to Learning Life Content. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Your support helps us grow and motivates us to bring you more fascinating and enriching stories. Leonardo da Vinci is famous for painting the Mona Lisa. But, he was much more than just a painter. He was a man filled with an endless curiosity. He wanted to understand everything he saw in the world around him. This deep curiosity made him one of the most remarkable people in history. He was an artist, a scientist, an inventor, an engineer, and a student of the human body. He saw no difference between art and science. To him, they were both ways to explore the beautiful and complex patterns of nature. His mind was always asking questions, always searching for answers, and always looking for new ways to see the world. This powerful desire to learn drove him throughout his entire life. If he saw a bird flying, he didn't just admire its beauty. He wanted to know exactly how its wings worked. He would study its feathers, its bones, and the way it caught the wind. He believed that if he could understand the mechanics of a bird's flight, he could build a machine that would allow humans to fly too. This way of thinking, connecting what he observed in nature to what he could create, was at the heart of his genius. He filled thousands of pages in his notebooks with detailed drawings and notes on everything from flowing water to the anatomy of a flower. Leonardo's approach was unique because he combined his artistic talent with his scientific investigations. When he studied human anatomy, he wasn't just learning about muscles and bones for medical reasons. He was also learning how to paint people who looked truly alive, with real emotions and realistic movements. He saw the human body as the most perfect machine ever created. His art was a direct result of his scientific understanding. He believed that to be a great artist, you first had to be a great observer of the world. This made his paintings, like the Mona Lisa, feel incredibly real and full of life. His curiosity was not limited to just one or two subjects. He was interested in everything. He designed bridges, war machines, and musical instruments. He studied geology to understand how mountains were formed. He studied botany to learn why plants grow toward the sun. For Leonardo, every part of the natural world was connected. He saw the same swirling patterns in a whirlpool of water, in the curls of human hair, and in the turbulent air of a storm. This ability to see connections everywhere is what made him a true Renaissance man, a person with knowledge and skills in many different fields. The Mona Lisa is arguably the most famous painting in the world. For centuries, millions of people have traveled to the Louvre Museum in Paris just to stand before it. They're drawn in by one central mystery, her smile. Is she happy? Is she sad? Is she hiding a secret? The smile seems to change depending on how you look at it. This ambiguity is what makes the painting so fascinating. It feels less like a static portrait and more like a living person who is reacting to your presence. Leonardo captured a fleeting moment, a thought that is just beginning to form, and this makes us feel connected to her across 500 years. Her fame is not just about the smile, but also about the incredible sense of presence she has. She looks directly at us, which was very unusual for portraits of women at that time. Her gaze is confident and engaging. It feels like she knows something that we do not. This direct connection makes the viewer feel personally involved with the painting. You are not just looking at a work of art, you are having an interaction with the woman in the portrait. Leonardo managed to create a psychological depth that was completely new in the history of art. He painted not just her physical appearance, but also the movements of her soul. The mystery surrounding the painting has only added to its legend. For a long time, no one was completely sure who she was. We now believe she was Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a silk merchant from Florence named Francesco del Giocondo. But for centuries, her identity was a puzzle. The painting was also stolen from the Louvre in 1911, which made international headlines and turned the Mona Lisa into a global celebrity. When it was finally recovered 2 years later, people lined up in the streets to celebrate its return. The theft transformed the painting from a masterpiece into a cultural icon that everyone recognized. Today, the Mona Lisa is more than just a painting, it is a symbol of art itself. It has been reproduced countless times in advertisements, movies, and popular culture. Everyone knows her face, even if they have never seen the original painting, but no copy can truly capture the magic of the original. Standing in front of it, you can feel the power of Leonardo's genius. He created a person, not just a portrait. He captured a moment of human consciousness that continues to fascinate and inspire us, making her smile the most famous and captivating smile in the history of the world. What makes the Mona Lisa so different from other portraits of its time is Leonardo's relentless search for perfection. He was never fully satisfied with his work and kept the painting with him for the rest of his life, adding small touches to it over many years. Most portraits from the 1500s were stiff and formal. They showed a person's status and wealth through their fine clothes and jewelry. But Leonardo was more interested in capturing the sitter's inner life and personality. He wanted to paint a real human being, not just a symbol of social standing. This focus on humanity is what makes the Mona Lisa feel so modern and relatable. Leonardo achieved this by breaking the rules of traditional portraiture. Instead of a flat profile view, he painted Lisa Gherardini in a three-quarter pose, turned toward the viewer. This creates a sense of movement and interaction. Her hands are gently folded in her lap, a pose that feels natural and relaxed. By paying close attention to these small details, Leonardo made her seem approachable and real. He was not just painting a likeness, he was trying to paint a soul. His deep knowledge of human anatomy allowed him to understand how a smile engages not just the lips, but also the muscles around the eyes and cheeks. The landscape behind the Mona Lisa also contributes to the painting's unique atmosphere. It is not a real place, but an imaginary world created by Leonardo. On the left side, the landscape is lower and seems more distant than the landscape on the right. This subtle imbalance adds to the painting's dreamlike quality. The winding roads and rivers lead nowhere, disappearing into a hazy, mysterious background. This strange, almost alien landscape makes the human presence of the Mona Lisa even more powerful. She is a calm, living figure set against a backdrop of wild and untamed nature, a perfect fusion of the human and the elemental. This blending of art and science was central to Leonardo's goal. He saw the world through the eyes of both an artist and a scientist, and the Mona Lisa is the ultimate expression of this vision. He used his scientific observations about light, shadow, geology, and human anatomy to create a work of art that feels profoundly true. He believed that art was the highest form of science because it could communicate knowledge and beauty in a way that words could not. The painting is not just a picture of a woman, it is the culmination of a lifetime spent studying the universe and our place within it. Leonardo da Vinci developed several groundbreaking painting techniques to make the Mona Lisa look so alive. One of his most famous innovations was a method called sfumato, which comes from the Italian word for smoke. Instead of drawing sharp, clear outlines, Leonardo blended colors and shades together so seamlessly that they melted into one another. This is especially noticeable around the corners of the Mona Lisa's mouth and eyes. The soft transitions create ambiguity and movement. Because there are no hard lines, our eyes can never quite settle on one fixed expression, which is why her smile seems to flicker and change before our very eyes. To achieve this incredible effect, Leonardo applied paint in extremely thin layers, almost like glazes. Modern science has allowed us to understand just how meticulously he worked. Using technologies like X-rays and infrared reflectography, researchers can now see beneath the surface of the painting. They have discovered that Leonardo applied dozens of layers of paint, some of them thinner than a human hair. This painstaking process, which took years to complete, allowed him to build up a rich sense of depth and luminosity. The light seems to come from within the painting itself, giving the Mona Lisa's skin a soft, realistic glow that no artist had ever achieved before. These scientific examinations have also revealed some of Leonardo's hidden secrets. For example, infrared scans have shown that the Mona Lisa was originally painted with eyebrows and eyelashes, but they have faded over time due to aging and past cleaning attempts. The scans also show that Leonardo made several changes to the composition as he worked. He adjusted the position of her fingers and changed details in the background landscape. This shows that the painting was an evolving creation, a work in progress that he constantly refined in his pursuit of perfection. He was not just executing a pre-planned design, he was discovering the painting as he created it. The use of modern technology to study the Mona Lisa is a perfect tribute to Leonardo himself. He was a man who loved science and innovation, and he would have been fascinated by the tools we now have to analyze his work. These scientific methods help us appreciate his genius on an even deeper level. They show us that his artistic magic was not just a matter of talent, but also of intense scientific inquiry and tireless experimentation. He was a master craftsman who used his understanding of optics, chemistry, and human perception to create a work of art that continues to challenge and mesmerize us. So, the woman in the famous portrait is now widely believed to be Lisa Gherardini, who was the wife of a wealthy Florentine silk merchant named Francesco del Giocondo. That's actually why the painting is also known as in Italian. Francesco likely commissioned the portrait around 1503, either to celebrate the birth of their second son, or maybe the purchase of a new home. In Leonardo's time, this sort of request was, a fairly standard thing for a successful artist. However, Leonardo became so captivated by the project that, interestingly, he never delivered the finished painting to the family. He kept it with him, working on it for years, all the way until he moved to France at the end of his life. For centuries, the painting remained part of the French royal collection, admired by art lovers but really not widely known to the general public. It was hung in the palaces of French kings, including at Fontainebleau and later on at Versailles. It was only after the French Revolution that there was moved to the Louvre Museum, making it accessible to everyone. Even then, it was just one masterpiece among many others. It wasn't until the 19th century that writers and critics began to focus on the painting's mysterious allure, especially the enigma of the sitter's smile. They wrote poems and essays that, romanticized the painting, transforming it into a symbol of eternal femininity. The event that truly cemented the S status as a global icon was its dramatic theft in 1911. An Italian handyman named Vincenzo Peruggia, who had worked at the Louvre, hid in a closet overnight and simply walked out with the painting under his coat the next morning. Its disappearance caused a massive scandal. The museum was closed for a week, and newspapers around the world offered huge rewards for its return. For 2 years the painting was missing, and its empty space on the wall of the Louvre actually drew more visitors than the painting itself ever had. The story of the theft made the A household name. When Peruggia was finally caught trying to sell the painting in Florence, he claimed his motive was patriotism. He wanted to return the masterpiece to its native Italy. After being exhibited throughout Italy, it was triumphantly returned to Paris in 1914. Its homecoming was a major international event. From that point on, its fame was simply unstoppable. It had become more than just a painting, it was a story of mystery, crime, and national pride. The theft ensured that they would forever be seen as the world's most famous, most valuable, and, most iconic work of art. Leonardo da Vinci was born in 1452 in the small Tuscan town of Vinci near Florence. His upbringing was, pretty unusual for the time. He was born out of wedlock to a respected legal professional named Ser Piero da Vinci and a young peasant woman named Caterina. Because of his illegitimate birth, he wasn't expected to follow his father's profession and didn't receive a formal classical education in Latin and Greek. This might have seemed like a disadvantage, but it actually freed Leonardo to follow his own passions. Instead of burying his head in ancient texts, he learned directly from the greatest book of all, the Book of Nature. From a young age, Leonardo was intensely curious about the world around him. He would wander the hills of Tuscany, observing the flow of rivers, the structure of rocks, and the flight of birds. He taught himself to see the world with incredible precision and detail. When he was about 14, his father recognized his extraordinary artistic talent and apprenticed him to Andrea del Verrocchio, one of the leading artists in Florence. Verrocchio's workshop was a bustling center of creativity, where young artists learned not only painting and sculpture, but also engineering, metalworking, and chemistry. This environment was really the perfect place for a curious mind like Leonardo's. Florence in the 15th century was the epicenter of the Renaissance, a period of incredible artistic and intellectual awakening. The city was ruled by the powerful Medici family, who were great patrons of the arts and sciences. Everywhere Leonardo looked, there was innovation and discovery. Artists like Brunelleschi were using new principles of mathematics to build magnificent structures like the dome of the Florence Cathedral. Sculptors like Donatello were creating statues with a new level of realism and emotion. Being surrounded by such genius and ambition pushed Leonardo to develop his own unique skills and ideas. He learned that art was not just about decoration, it was a way to understand and represent the world. The competitive atmosphere of Florence also shaped Leonardo. Artists and engineers were constantly trying to outdo one another, proposing bold new projects and inventions. This environment encouraged Leonardo's natural tendency to think big and to tackle complex challenges. He learned to combine artistic vision with practical engineering, a skill that would define his entire career. His early life and training in Florence gave him the tools, the ambition and the freedom to explore his wide-ranging interests. It was here that he laid the foundation for a life dedicated to connecting the worlds of art, science and invention. While Leonardo is most famous for his art, he likely spent even more time on his scientific and engineering projects. He saw himself as much an engineer as an artist. When he sought a job at the court of the Duke of Milan, his letter of introduction barely mentioned his painting skills. Instead, he listed his abilities as a military engineer, describing in detail how he could design indestructible bridges, powerful cannons and armored vehicles. He was a practical problem solver who wanted to use his knowledge to shape the world around him. Many of his most imaginative ideas were for inventions that were centuries ahead of their time. One of his greatest fascinations was the dream of human flight. Leonardo spent years studying the anatomy of birds and bats, filling his notebooks with detailed sketches of their wing structures and flight patterns. Based on these observations, he designed several flying machines, including an ornithopter, a device with flapping wings like a bird, and a machine that looked remarkably like a modern helicopter. While these inventions were never built or successfully flown in his lifetime, they show the incredible scope of his imagination. He approached the problem like a true scientist, through careful observation, hypothesis, and design. Leonardo's work as an engineer extended to civil projects as well. He was deeply interested in the movement of water and designed complex systems of canals, locks and dams to control rivers and irrigate fields. He envisioned a plan to reroute the Arno River in Florence, a massive engineering feat that was never realized but demonstrated his ambitious thinking. He also designed cities with multi-level streets to separate pedestrians from wagon traffic, an early form of urban planning. In every project, he combined his artistic eye for form with a practical understanding of function. He wanted to create systems that were not only efficient, but also harmonious and beautiful. His scientific studies were just as diverse. To better understand how to paint the human form, he undertook detailed anatomical dissections of human bodies, which was a controversial practice at the time. His anatomical drawings are so accurate that they are still admired by doctors and scientists today. He discovered how the heart valves work and made some of the first detailed drawings of a fetus in the womb. For Leonardo, there was no boundary between art and science. His engineering and scientific pursuits were all part of the same quest, to understand the fundamental principles that govern nature and to use that knowledge to create things of beauty and utility. Perhaps the greatest treasure Leonardo da Vinci left behind is not a painting or an invention, but his collection of notebooks. Over the course of his life, he filled more than 7,000 pages with his thoughts, drawings and scientific observations. These notebooks are the most direct window we have into his extraordinary mind. He wrote in a unique mirror image script from right to left, which has led to much speculation, though it was likely just a practical measure since he was left-handed. The pages are a dizzying mix of ideas. A sketch of a beautiful face might sit next to a mathematical equation, a design for a war machine, or even a shopping list. The notebooks reveal a mind that was constantly questioning and observing. Leonardo wrote down questions about everything he saw. Why is the sky blue? How does a woodpecker's tongue work? How do clouds form? How does light reflect from a surface? He didn't just ask the questions. He tried to answer them through direct observation and experimentation. His notebooks are filled with detailed diagrams and sketches that show him working through problems. They are not polished, finished works, but rather a raw, living record of his thought process. They show a man in a constant, joyful dialogue with the natural world. These pages demonstrate the incredible breadth of his interests. One page might contain detailed anatomical studies of the human heart, while the next might have designs for a giant crossbow or a study of the swirling patterns of water in a river. He drew maps, designed stage sets for plays, studied fossils, and wrote fables. For Leonardo, all knowledge was connected. He saw the same mathematical principles governing the growth of a plant and the proportions of a beautiful building. His notebooks are a testament to his belief that a true artist must also be a true scientist, and vice versa. Today, these notebooks are scattered in collections around the world, but thanks to digitization, we can all explore their contents. They are more than just a historical artifact. They are an inspiration. They teach us about the power of curiosity and the importance of asking questions. They show us that genius is not just about having brilliant ideas, but about the relentless day-to-day work of observing, experimenting, and learning. Leonardo's notebooks are the ultimate diary of a curious mind, reminding us that the desire to know is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Leonardo da Vinci's enduring legacy lies in his unique ability to merge art and science into a single, unified quest for knowledge. He did not see them as separate disciplines. For him, art was a science and science was an art. His paintings were not just beautiful images, they were the result of intense scientific investigation into anatomy, optics, and human psychology. His scientific studies were not just cold, hard facts, they were driven by an artist's eye for beauty and pattern. This holistic approach is what makes him a timeless figure. He showed that the most profound insights come from connecting different fields of knowledge. The Mona Lisa stands as the perfect symbol of this fusion. It is a masterpiece of art that is also a masterpiece of science. The gentle smile is brought to life by Leonardo's scientific understanding of human anatomy and the psychology of emotion. The painting's luminous glow is the result of his experiments with paint chemistry and the physics of light and shadow. The mysterious landscape in the background reflects his deep interest in geology and the forces that shape the natural world. In this single painting, we see the culmination of a lifetime spent exploring the universe with both a poet's soul and a scientist's mind. Leonardo's notebooks are just as important to his legacy as his paintings. They reveal the true source of his genius, an insatiable and joyful curiosity. He reminds us that the greatest discoveries begin with the simplest questions. He teaches us to look closely at the world, to notice the details, and to never stop wondering why things are the way they are. His life's work encourages us to be more like him, to be curious about everything, to see the connections between different subjects, and to appreciate both the beauty and the mechanics of the world around us. Ultimately, Leonardo da Vinci remains unforgettable because he represents the limitless potential of the human mind. He was a man who refused to be confined to a single box. He was an artist, an engineer, a scientist, and a dreamer, all at once. He demonstrated that creativity and analytical thinking are not opposing forces, but are two sides of the same coin. His life and work continue to inspire us to break down the barriers between art and science, to embrace curiosity, and to pursue knowledge in all its forms. That is the true genius of Leonardo, a legacy that is as alive and captivating today as the smile of his Mona Lisa. Thank you for watching Learning Life content. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Your support helps us grow and motivates us to bring you more fascinating and enriching stories.